Mike Mikkelborg, you have been dubbed fashion industry thought leader and industry mastermind. Wow. You apparently have a sustainability brand that did really well and even better during COVID. You said sustainability can also be fashionable and fast. Explain sustainable fashion as being fashionable and fast. You don't hear that very often.
Not only that, it can also be affordable. So speed is actually something that is a benefit when it comes to sustainability, because actually it's not about the materials only, it's not about the choice of those and how it's produced. Actually, the biggest opportunity for our industry to fix the problem of us over-consuming what the planet can give us is to reduce the overproduction. And overproduction is a result of that we produce products we don't know we're going to sell. And that's because of very long lead times. You have to make your designs and your bets on what the consumer wants so far in advance. So if we reduce that time, there is an opportunity to be more precise. And I'll give you a staggering number. 100 billion garments were made in 2020. 30 billion of those were never sold. So that 30% of the entire impact of our industry is a big piece of the cake. So speed is good. Fast fashion, trash fashion, that's a different thing. So the speed of getting a product to consumer, yes, it needs to be fast because then it can be more precise. But trash fashion is not good. And trash fashion becomes trash if there is no demand for it.
Okay. Can you tell me, how has tech helped or not helped sustainable fashion?
Its biggest drive now, the innovation within the industry has become really good. We have a lot of work being done in terms of reducing the water impact, for example, and a couple of initiatives I've been exposed to and worked within is about addressing denim manufacturing. Denim consumes a tremendous amount of water. It's just in the washing process, several hundred liters for one denim, but if you take it all the way down to the cotton field, we're talking about maybe 600-700 liters for every pair of denim we're wearing. If we can reduce that by two factors, we can use more recycled materials. Of course, then we need no water because we don't have to regrow it. And then you combine that with technology in terms of washing that reduces the water by 98%. That's where we've seen a lot of innovation, also with laser technology within the denim manufacturing. And why I mention denim so much is because it's the sort of the greatest polluter within the fashion industry. So I always believe in, let's address the big pieces of the cake first, and then we can start drilling down into the other things as we unpeel the onion.
You've said that success can be based on a vertical direct-to-consumer brand. What does this mean?
That means that we have total control of the entire supply chain, basically. So we work almost all the way from crop to shop. That is sort of the verticalization of it. And it's not a wholesale business. We have a direct connection with the consumer. So the consumer, especially now in the digital space, you have a lot of fast growing companies online, the Zalandos, the ASOS. A Swedish example is Naked and very small that I had new in. Phenomenal growth, very quickly. And that's because we are directly understanding and communicating with the consumer and build capability to react to what they want.
Great. You did once say that it's the Generation Zs actually are much more prone to buying sustainable fashion because they are very earth conscious, I guess. Where do you see the future of this sustainable fashion actually going?
Yes, you're absolutely right. You're not going to stay relevant today if you don't invest heavily in a true sustainability. No greenwashing. You have to be true because the audience today, they are very clued up. They will very quickly find out if you're greenwashing or telling porcupines. With that in mind, companies are pushing forward in their sustainability journey very quickly. I don't think they're pushing hard enough and fast enough. But I think that will accelerate as the pressure from the consumer increases. And where is fashion and sustainability going? I think it's very simple. I even feel that governments need to regulate the industry. If the governments go in and say, if you don't use X amount of safe materials, chemical, water, etc., we're going to penalize you. And that I think is happening already in Europe. I think that's really important because that puts real pressure and you can't get away with pretending and making up stories and to the consumer. So that's where fashion, I think, in sustainability will go. You will have regulation coming in, penalties, that's going to progress it faster, but it's also a total understanding of how do we from a retail perspective and a consumer perspective, totally understand what can we do today. It's great to have a 10-year plan, but nobody knows what the 10-year plan is tomorrow. We've already forgotten about the headline. So what we need to show now is concrete and active steps, almost updating consumers monthly and weekly of what's being done, how it's being done, and what are the benefits for the environment.
Today, you know, I want to make the world a better place. I love fashion, though. What could I do today to make a difference? Or is it like a very long journey?
I mean, from a consumer, it's simple. Buy the right product. And that comes maybe with a slight price, because if you go for the mass market, really low value fashion retailers that are basically churning out these unethically made products, that is not sustainable. So if instead of buying 4 t-shirts, maybe you buy 1. But then as you can, that will also last longer. So you have 2 benefits. It will last longer, and it was made in an ethical and environmentally friendly way. That's a really fast thing a consumer can do, and they can do that tomorrow. And buy secondhand. I think that's a great opportunity we can do. I have started to buy as much as I possibly can secondhand, but I wouldn't buy I won't mention any names, but a very trashy, fashy brand, I can't buy secondhand because it falls apart. So yeah, that's a quick one that consumers can get into very quickly.
Very good point. You own a company called Sustainable Fashion Strategy. It's a boutique consultancy company. Do you have more global large brands or smaller boutique brands coming to you for help?
Both, but it's almost, we're just a few people show in my company, and my purpose is to try within my lifetime to have as much change effect as possible. And for that I would like and work with bigger brands, because if a bigger brand changes, the impact is larger and faster. But I think the smaller brands have a much bigger opportunity in terms of the speed of which they can change. And new starting brands, that's the beauty, and that was when I started the New In company, was that we had a blank slate. We had no legacy. We could actually do things the right way from the beginning. But it's never perfect. It's a journey to get to where you want to be.
How does South Africa compare to the rest of the world in terms of sustainability?
They're not different. I have seen no difference here whatsoever compared to the rest of the world. There's an enormous price pressure, of course, because consumption here is challenged. There's a high unemployment rate. People don't have a high disposable income. So the pressure on price is very severe. But there are some retailers here in South Africa that are so progressive and really understands this, both from an ethical perspective, but also environmental perspective. And they don't only talk about it, they really believe in it, and they do actions to implement those strategies that will combat 2 things, social injustice and environmental injustice.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, maybe one thing about sustainability. I think it's 2 things. So for me, sustainability is, yes, we have to protect the environment, but it's also about social injustice. How can we combat that injustice that unfortunately so many people are born into? Just because of where they're born. I was born into privilege. I was born in Sweden. Education, access to that is a given. Water, roof over my head. All that was a given for me. But in many countries, it isn't. And that is really unfair. But the textile industry and fashion industry, we talk about the negatives. It can be so positive. When I created my first factory in China, I created over 3,500 jobs. The impact of the society around that, the communities were amazing. And we see that happening now in South Africa. And I think the Foschini Group has done a tremendous work of creating local jobs. And that's the opportunity of fashion retail. Let's bring that back to South Africa. Put down factories, put down verticalization, add on manufacturing technology, and build jobs here, because with 40% unemployment rate, it's desperately needed.